Alex had always been a man of routine, not out of fear but discipline. Wake up at 6:15. Brew coffee. Lay out Leo's clothes. Kiss his wife's cheek. Commute in silence. Draft buildings. Return home. Repeat. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe. Predictable. And somewhere inside that predictability he thought lived love. Real love. The kind that could be trusted with closed eyes. But it had started to taste different. Like milk gone sour before its date. It was a Wednesday that broke the pattern. A client meeting downtown was postponed last minute, and instead of killing time at a coffee shop, Alex took the tram back home. No warning, no message. He figured he'd surprise Daria. Not because they were in a romantic phase, but because surprises were a forgotten language between them. A dying tongue. When he turned the key in the lock, the door was already ajar. That alone was strange. Daria never left the door open. Not with Leo's habit of wandering outside barefoot. Alex stepped inside, quiet, not with caution, but with curiosity. From the hallway he heard voices. Two. One of them hers. Confident, high and teasing. The other a male voice.
Familiar.
Too familiar. Laughing in a way that felt inside. Not the laugh of a stranger trying to impress, but of someone who belonged. Alex moved forward. Not thinking, just moving. Pulled by something feral and raw inside him. He didn't storm. He glided. Past the kitchen where the fruit bowl still had last week's oranges. Past Leo's half-built Lego tank on the floor. And then the living room. There they were. Daria, sitting in a way she hadn't sat around Alex in years. Knees curled beneath her. Wine glass in hand, glowing with warmth. And beside her, as if plucked from some deranged nightmare stitched together with betrayal and disbelief, Eric. Alex's best friend. No, not best friend. Best man. The man who toasted their wedding, who carried Leo on his shoulders last Christmas, who sent him memes at midnight just 2 days ago. Neither of them noticed Alex at first. They were too wrapped up in something invisible between them, that charged current, that invisible string of secrets and shared sin. Alex didn't speak. He waited, long enough for Eric to see him first, his expression flickering from relaxed to caught, to that desperate, disgusting attempt at neutrality. Daria followed his gaze. Her eyes landed on Alex, and she didn't flinch.
No gasp.
No apologies tumbling out. Just a slow, deliberate sip of wine, her eyes locked on his. Then she said calmly, "Well, that didn't go as planned." Alex stared at them both. He didn't know whether to laugh or scream, and for a few suspended seconds, his body did neither. Eric stood, rubbing the back of his neck.
Alex, man listen.
"Don't," Alex said, barely a whisper, but it sliced through the room like a steel wire. "Say my name." Daria exhaled, bored already. "Before you start playing the betrayed saint, maybe remember all the nights you came home too late, or forgot our anniversary. You've been half here for years. I've been providing for this family," he snapped. "You've been hiding in your job," she returned, not missing a beat. "You love control, not me." Eric tried again. "It was one time, it was—" "Eric," Alex cut him off, eyes now fixed like stone. "You held my son on your shoulders. You gave him birthday gifts. You called me brother." Daria stood up now, slow and graceful, like this was some performance she was directing. "Enough," she said. "It wasn't planned. It happened. It's over. You can either drag this into a circus or accept that life moves on." Alex didn't recognize his own voice when he answered. "Do you even regret it?" She tilted her head. "I regret not being more careful." And there it was. Not an apology. Not a tear. Just the calm dissection of what she saw as an inconvenience. Not a betrayal. Alex turned to leave, but not before looking at Eric once more. "You're dead to me," he said. Then added, almost as an afterthought, "but not buried yet." He didn't slam the door. He closed it quietly, the sound of the latch clicking into place louder than any shout. And as he stepped into the evening air, it wasn't pain that overtook him first. It was clarity. Cold, ruthless, sharp-edged clarity. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Alex didn't go home that night. Not to the apartment, not to any friend's couch. He walked through streets that looked the same but now pulsed with something sinister. Neon lights blurred as his thoughts spiraled. Not out of confusion, but because something inside him had already begun to shift. Not broken, not yet reshaped. Reforged. He ended up in an all-night diner. Not because he was hungry, food was the last thing he could think of, but because he needed to sit somewhere that wasn't filled with lies. The waitress asked if he wanted coffee. He nodded. Black.
No sugar.
Like the truth. As she poured it, his phone buzzed. One notification. A message from Daria. We need to talk about Leo. Not sorry. Not let me explain. Not even a question of where he went. Just a cold, parental formality. Like business partners finalizing terms after a failed merger. He didn't respond. He stared at the steam curling from the cup, and for a second, it almost looked like smoke from a building on fire. His life, burning quietly, politely, in the background. And then came the second message. He asked where you were. I didn't know what to say. It was bait and Alex knew it. But it still landed like a punch to the chest. His son. The only innocent in this play. And suddenly, the pain that had stayed beneath the surface, controlled, intellectual, suspended, surged up, and he had to grip the edge of the table to stay grounded. Not from heartbreak, but from fury. She had done this. Eric had helped her. But he had handed them the tools. With every blind eye, every assumption that silence meant stability, he'd made it easy for them. He took out his phone and typed, "We'll talk, but not tonight. Don't tell him anything until I see him." Then he stood, dropped a 20, and left the diner. The next day he went back to the apartment, not to reconcile, not to speak, but to collect. The air inside was different, not just tense, vacant. Daria was gone, probably at work or wherever people like her disappear to after detonating someone's world. Alex walked through each room, cataloging what was his books, his sketchpads, Leo's framed finger paintings. The worn-out hoodie Leo always begged to sleep in because it smelled like Dad. Then he saw the photo on the shelf. The three of them, taken 2 years ago on the beach. Daria was mid-laugh, sunglasses pushed into her hair, holding Leo who had sand all over his face. Alex had his arm around her, eyes squinting in the sun. He picked up the photo, looked at it for a long time, then opened the drawer, pulled out the scissors, and sliced the photo in one clean motion. Right between him and the two of them. He left her half on the counter, took his own with him. Before he walked out, he placed a sticky note on the kitchen island. Just one line. You lied like it was love. That evening he met with a lawyer. Not just to talk divorce but custody. He wasn't going to let her spin this into some noble exit. She wanted a clean break, a rewrite of the narrative. But he wasn't stepping aside quietly. Not for her. Not for Eric. Not for anyone. This was only the beginning. The version of Alex she knew. The one who worked late to keep them comfortable, who overlooked her distance, who trusted her without hesitation. That man had died in the quiet of that doorway. The one walking into the storm now? He wasn't looking to survive. He was coming to rewrite the ending point. 3 days passed without a word from her. No calls.
No texts.
No knock on his door pretending this was something salvageable. Daria's silence wasn't the remorseful kind. It was the silence of someone who'd already moved on, already written her version of events and handed it out like flyers. Alex stayed in a small rental apartment, sparsely furnished, half-lit by a flickering ceiling lamp and the blue glow of his laptop. It didn't matter. He wasn't there to live, only to plan. He had meetings lined up with a custody specialist, emails drafted to their mutual friends, and a timeline he was constructing with the precision of an architect sketching a blueprint for demolition. And yet, amid the Cold War he was preparing, he still hadn't told Leo. His son deserved truth, not trauma. But the day had come. Saturday morning. His turn to have Leo, as per the still temporary arrangement. Alex picked him up from the front of Daria's building. She didn't come down. Instead, Leo came out holding a backpack, alone. A small, folded note pinned to the zipper. Alex opened it. He's been moody. Don't turn this into therapy. Just have fun. Fun. As if Leo was a weekend project. As if she hadn't detonated his world with her carelessness. But Alex didn't react. He folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. Leo climbed into the car without saying much. There was a bruise on his knee, an old one maybe, but Alex clocked every detail now. Every scratch, every pause, every longer than normal silence. They drove to the aquarium. Leo loved sharks, said they were ancient and honest. Alex always found that funny, but now it felt profound. At the glass tank, watching the silent gray mass of a hammerhead drift by, Alex spoke. "Do you know why you're with me this weekend?" he asked, gently. Leo nodded. "Mom said you guys are taking space." Alex knelt down beside him, not caring who stared. "She didn't tell you the truth," he said. "But I will." He told him enough. Not the details, not yet. But the truth. That Mom had made choices that hurt people, and now they were going to live in two homes. That none of it was Leo's fault. That no matter what happened, Alex would never stop being his father. His constant. Leo was quiet for a while. Then he asked, "Is it because of Uncle Eric?" The name crashed into Alex's ears like thunder, even in that quiet, echoing space. He hadn't expected that. He hadn't planned for it. "Why would you say that?" Alex asked, steady but tight. "Because I saw them hugging once. At night. I thought it was a secret." Alex felt like the floor dropped out beneath him. It wasn't just betrayal, it was exposure. Leo had seen the cracks long before Alex had the courage to admit they existed. That night, after putting Leo to bed, Alex stared out of the apartment window. The skyline shimmered with lights, but none of it felt alive. Just architecture, structures, shells. Then his phone rang. It was Eric. Alex let it ring. Then he answered, voice sharp. "I'm only calling once," Eric said. "Then I'll disappear. But you need to hear this. Talk. It didn't start recently. It's been over a year. I tried to stop. I ended it before you found out. But she pulled me back in. Every time." Alex didn't speak. He let him confess. "She said you didn't care. That you wouldn't even notice. And when you did, she said you'd blame me, not her. That you needed someone to hate." "Convenient," Alex muttered. "Yeah," Eric whispered. "It was. Until I started to hate myself." Alex hung up. Not because he didn't want to hear more, but because he'd heard enough. This wasn't about Eric. It never was. Eric was just the weapon. She was the hand that chose to wield it. And Alex was done being collateral. It was the following Monday when the storm truly began to gather. Alex had taken the morning off work. Not because he needed rest, but because something colder, more calculated, had settled in his mind. It was no longer about grief or pain. Those emotions had passed through him like a fire through dry brush. Wild, hot, and devastating. But what remained now was steel. A silent, deliberate readiness. He drove to the office of his lawyer, Nora Kalin, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who didn't waste breath on empathy. She was known for two things: winning custody battles and never blinking. After laying out the timeline, the betrayal, and the impact on Leo, Nora leaned back and folded her hands. "She'll fight dirty," she said plainly. "Women like her don't give up control. They redesign it." "I don't want full custody to punish her," Alex said, voice even. "I want to protect my son from a lie that's wearing lipstick and a familiar smile." "Good," Nora replied, "because now we're going to put that lie on paper." The next 2 hours were a blueprint for war. Not of screaming and courtroom theatrics, but of cold documentation. Witnesses, messages, a character pattern, and most damning of all, Leo's own quiet awareness of what had been happening under their roof. But even as Alex laid the foundation for his legal offensive, a more personal move was taking shape in his mind. That night, he went home and took out a dusty old external hard drive from the bottom of his closet. It contained every photo, every message, every video saved from the last decade. A digital graveyard of memories. He opened the folder titled Family, then one by one started renaming them. Vacation_2017 became birthday, turned into Every image was still, smiles, arms around shoulders, cake and balloons. But now, with every new name, the truth bled through. It wasn't cathartic. It wasn't healing. It was necessary. The next day, Daria sent a message. "We need to speak. I'm coming by after work."
No epalegi. No ambetaschen.
Just her typical statement of control. At 7:13 p.m., she arrived. Not in tears. Not in guilt. She walked in like she still lived there, dropped her keys on the counter, and glanced around as if inspecting a hotel suite. Alex didn't stand. He stayed in the armchair, waiting. "I hope you're not planning to use Leo as a pawn," she began, pouring herself water like nothing had happened. "I'm planning to remove him from a false reality," he said. "The kind where his mother smirks while dismantling trust." She sipped her water. "You're not a victim, Alex. You're a control freak who finally lost the script." He stood now slowly, not loud, not threatening. "You want truth?" he said. "Here it is. I would have forgiven a mistake, a moment, but what you did was architecture. You built it piece by piece, and you made sure it collapsed only on me." Daria didn't respond right away. She watched him, calculating, and then a smile. Then, "I see. You think taking Leo will fix your pride? I think keeping him away from someone who can lie to a child without blinking is the only decent thing I can still do." She walked to the door, paused, looked over her shoulder. "You don't scare me," she said. Alex didn't move. "I don't have to. You've already buried yourself." When the door clicked shut behind her, he sat down again. Not tired, just ready. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding, not what was lost, but what could never be taken again. The first court meeting was set for the following week, and in that brief, suspended time before the battle began, something unexpected happened. People began to pick sides. It started with small shifts. Mutual friends, once warm and familiar, now sent awkward texts or none at all. Some had clearly already heard Daria's version. Polished, victimized, tailored to soften her treachery into something palatable. She was spinning it as a marriage that died years ago, a slow drift she tried to save. She had become the misunderstood wife of a cold, emotionally distant man, and Eric? He wasn't the villain. He was the confidant, the shoulder, the accidental comfort. Alex, according to her, had become irrelevant long before she made her mistake. But then came Julia. Julia, who had known Daria since college, reached out to Alex late one evening. "I need to talk to you," she said. "In person." He met her at a quiet bar on the west end of the city. She ordered wine but didn't touch it. Her eyes were heavy, not with sleep, but burden. "You're not crazy," she said without preamble. "I've seen things, heard things." Alex waited. "She's not remorseful. She's rehearsed. Everything she told you, she practiced saying it. She was going to leave you. Then she wasn't. Then she was. It depended on who she was talking to that week." Julia slid her phone across the table. A photo from 8 months ago. Daria and Eric at some restaurant, hands touching, her head on his shoulder. Not a slip-up, not a moment, an entire night. "She said you'd probably implode if you ever saw this." Her words. Alex didn't thank her. He couldn't. The gratitude got stuck somewhere in his throat, choking on betrayal. He left the bar with the photo sent to his phone and a voice recording of Julia's message. That night, he added it to the growing file Nora was building. The following day, Eric reached out again. Desperate this time. "I didn't know she was going to turn on me, too," he said in a rushed voicemail. "She's making it sound like I manipulated her, like I chased her. I've lost my job. My girlfriend left. You have to believe me, man, Alex deleted the message. He felt nothing. The woman who had once claimed to love him was now severing her own alibi limb by limb, not out of guilt, but strategy. And Eric, well, he had been a pawn from the start. He thought he was the affair. He didn't realize he was the insurance policy. But the most surreal moment came on a quiet Thursday. Leo handed Alex a picture he'd drawn in school. It was their house, split in two with him in the middle. On one side, a stick figure labeled, was smiling. On the other, Dad looked tired. And between them, in a tiny speech bubble above Leo's head, "Can I stay here forever?" Alex looked at it for a long time, then hugged his son tighter than he ever had. Because in that single crayon line, Leo had drawn the entire war. And the only acceptable ending was giving him peace. The court date loomed like a black star, pulling everything toward it, unavoidable, immense. But before the legal gloves came off, Alex did something no one expected. He invited Daria to lunch. Not at their old favorite cafe. Not at a neutral public park. He picked a place in the city she hated. A narrow, dimly lit bistro with creaky chairs and no Wi-Fi. A place with no performance value. Just tables, food, and raw presence. She showed up late, naturally, in a designer coat, flawless makeup, and a smile that didn't even reach her cheeks, let alone her eyes. "You look exhausted," she said as she sat down. "That's not a dig, just an observation." "I asked you here because I want clarity," Alex said. Her brow lifted. "Clarity or leverage?" He ignored the bait. "You've told your version to our friends, and I'm sure to your lawyer. I just want to hear it from your mouth, without the rehearsal." Daria tilted her head, amused. "Is this confession hour? Should I weep into my napkin for effect?"
No.
"Just tell the truth for once." She leaned back, studying him like she was deciding which role to play. Eventually, she exhaled, not out of emotion but boredom. "You were stable, Alex. Predictable. Safe. You were like a straight road that never curved. And I was tired of driving straight." He stared at her. "So you crashed the car." "I needed something else," she said. "Something alive. And you stopped being that. Years ago." "Then why not leave?" he asked. "Why not just tell me?" "Because I didn't want to start over. I wanted both. You and your devotion, and someone who didn't fall asleep thinking about spreadsheets." There it was.
No metaphor. No evasión.
The core of her rot. Alex nodded slowly. "You're going to lose custody." She blinked. Just once. It wasn't fear, it was calculation. "You'll paint me as unstable." "I don't need to," he replied. "Your own words do the job." She leaned forward. "He's my son too, Alex." "Is he?" His voice dropped to a lethal calm. "Because while you were chasing something alive, he was watching, absorbing, wondering why mommy laughed harder at someone else's jokes. Why she whispered at night on the balcony and lied about the yoga mat. That struck something. She looked away, just for a second. Alex pressed on. "He asked me if he was the reason you left." Her lips parted, but no sound came. "He blamed himself, Daria. Because when you destroy a family without warning, the child always thinks they were the flaw." Silence fell between them. This time, she didn't break it with a clever quip or dismissive sigh. When the check came, she didn't offer to split it. She never did. As they stood, Alex said, "You're right about one thing." She turned, curious. "I was safe, predictable, reliable, the straight road." And then he leaned in, close enough for only her to hear. "But the road ends here, and you're walking the next part alone." She didn't reply. She just walked away. He watched her go, not with bitterness, but with finality. Because clarity wasn't just a weapon. It was a key point. 2 days before the custody hearing, Daria made her move. Alex came home from picking up Leo at school to find a white envelope on his doormat.
No posty.
Hand-delivered. Inside was a letter. Not typed, but written in her handwriting, in smooth, deliberate curves. "You're not the only one who can build a narrative." That was the first line. The rest was a carefully constructed smear. A twisted account of emotional neglect, of cold silences she endured, of nights spent alone while her husband buried himself in work. She accused him, subtly, cleverly, of being emotionally distant, borderline obsessive, and manipulative under the mask of calm. She closed the letter with, "If the court asks me why I sought comfort elsewhere, I'll tell them." In full.
No επάλεγει. No scham.
Just a veiled threat. A warning that if he kept pushing, she'd burn everything. Alex read the letter 3 times. Not because he needed to absorb its meaning, but because he wanted to feel every part of the rage it stirred. And it wasn't the kind of fury that demanded shouting. It was the quiet kind, the kind that hardens resolve like steel left in flame. He picked up his phone, called Nora. "She's playing the long game now," he said. Nora's voice was crisp. "Let her. You have testimony, timestamps, and witnesses. And if she wants to accuse you of being cold, we'll show the court how she taught your son to be warm in a freezing house." That night, Leo came to him with a question that nearly cracked the armor. "Dad, if you and Mom both want me, does that mean I have to pick?" Alex knelt down, looking his son square in the eyes. "No," he said. "You don't pick. You just tell the truth. Always." Leo nodded, then hugged him tight. Alex didn't let go for a long time. But the next morning, the real blow came. Not from Daria, but from someone unexpected. His sister, Mira, called. "I got a message from her," she said. Alex froze. "What did she say?" "She said you're turning Leo against her. That you're using him. That she's scared of how far you'll go." He swallowed hard. "And you believed her?" There was a long silence. Too long. "I don't know what to believe," Mira admitted. "But you're different lately. Harder. Colder. Maybe she's not lying." Alex didn't yell. He didn't hang up. He just said, "When this is over, you'll see the difference between anger and protection." Then he ended the call. He sat for a long time in the quiet of the kitchen. The walls felt closer now, like the air itself was pressing in. This was how Daria fought. Not with open fire, but with shadows, whispers, and poison. And still, Alex refused to break. Because even if the world believed her lies, even if friends vanished and family hesitated, he had something she would never possess again. His son's trust. And in 2 days, in that courtroom, he would show her what truth looked like when it walked in without fear. The courtroom wasn't grand or dramatic. It was clinical. Pale walls, cheap carpeting, a judge with tired eyes, and rows of seats that still carried the warmth of other people's tragedies. But for Alex, this wasn't just a legal proceeding. It was the battlefield where everything he'd been building toward would either hold or collapse. Daria sat across the room, dressed in muted tones, hair immaculately styled, expression blank but not vacant, calculated. She had the look of someone who had rehearsed every breath. Her lawyer, a man named Wexler, whispered something in her ear, and she gave the faintest nod, like a queen granting permission to speak on her behalf. Alex sat beside Nora, who was calmly organizing their stack of documents and witness statements. "We don't swing first," she reminded him. "We let them draw blood." And draw blood they tried. Daria's opening statement was not explosive, it was measured, surgical. Her lawyer painted Alex as cold, emotionally withdrawn, overly rigid. A man who lived in schedules and expectations, not in warmth. They played the narrative perfectly. A woman who felt abandoned, not by absence, but by presence that offered no intimacy. Then came the photos, the letters, screenshots of text messages Alex had sent over the past year. Selectively chosen, edited, stripped of context. A few were angry. One said, "You've hollowed out this house." Another, "Your silence is louder than any argument." The judge glanced at Alex. No reaction. And then it was their turn. Nora stood, calm but pointed. She started with the timeline, the overlapping trips, the suspicious absences. Then came Julia's testimony, via video. Calm, clear, and devastating. She spoke of Daria's affair with Eric, how long it had lasted, and most importantly, how it had never been a secret, just a game of control. "She told me she wanted the best of both worlds," Julia said. Security from Alex, and excitement from someone who didn't care about consequences. Then came the digital evidence. Photos, emails, a voice recording of Eric's guilt-ridden confession. And last, Nora played a short video. Leo, drawing quietly at a table, speaking softly to his teacher during a school project. "Mom said not to tell Dad about Eric, but I heard them laughing on the couch when she said she wished Dad would just go away." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even accusatory. It was innocent. And that innocence shattered Daria's carefully drawn portrait. Her lawyer objected, claimed it was manipulation, but it was too late. The air in the room had shifted. Daria tried to speak. For the first time, her voice wavered. I didn't mean." The judge raised a hand. "You may not have intended harm, Ms. Blackwell. But intent is a luxury we cannot afford when a child's emotional stability is at stake." Daria sat, her composure cracking like ice under pressure. Just slightly, but Alex saw it, the first true fracture. When the judge issued the temporary custody ruling, granting primary placement to Alex pending full investigation, Daria didn't even turn to look at him. But Alex looked at her, not with triumph, with clarity, because in that moment, he understood something vital. She hadn't just lost the case. She'd lost the only person who ever fought to keep believing in her. The ruling sent ripples through every corner of their lives. Daria didn't call. didn't write. For the first week after the hearing, her presence was reduced to logistical texts. Pickup times, weekend slots, lunch preferences. She didn't challenge the decision, not yet. Instead, she retreated into silence, but not the kind that yields. It was the silence of someone waiting for a chance to strike with precision. Alex knew it wasn't over. The temporary custody was a win, yes, but it was only the foothold. The real climb, the permanent ruling, would take time. Investigations, evaluations, and he had to be flawless. But something had changed. People started reaching out cautiously, tentatively. Friends who had stayed neutral. Colleagues who had heard rumors but hadn't dared ask. Some offered support. Others offered apologies. One sent a message that stuck with him. She fooled all of us. But you survived it. Still, Alex didn't feel victorious. He felt alert, sharpened, like a man walking through a forest where the trees whispered behind his back. Leo, however, began to breathe easier. His laughter returned. Not loud and exaggerated like a child trying to mask confusion, but real. He started sleeping through the night again. He asked fewer questions about why his mother wasn't around as much. And then, one evening, Leo said something that cut deep. "Mom says you're punishing her because you're angry." Alex sat down beside him, took his hand gently. "I'm not punishing anyone," he said. "I'm protecting you." Leo nodded, slowly. "She said you wouldn't let her talk to me." "I never said that," Alex replied. "You can always talk to her. I just want you to feel safe when you do." Leo looked up. "Do you think she's mad at me?" That question pierced deeper than anything the courtroom had delivered. "No," Alex said. "She's not mad at you. She's just confused about what love means right now." A pause. Then, "Are you?" Alex thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," he said at last. "I know exactly what it means." The next morning, a package arrived at his apartment. No return address. Inside was a photo album. He recognized it instantly. Their old album, the one Daria had kept on the bookshelf. Only now, every photo had a sticky note over Alex's face. Some notes had single words. Distant, absent, unforgiving. It was the most twisted message yet. She didn't want to talk. She wanted to erase him, not just from her present, but from the entire story. Alex didn't burn the album. He didn't tear the notes off. He placed it in a box, sealed it shut, and marked it Exhibit A, her legacy, because this wasn't vengeance anymore. This was documentation. 3 months passed. Custody was finalized. The court awarded Alex full physical custody, with limited, supervised visitation granted to Daria, not out of vengeance but necessity. The judge's words were sharp but fair. "This child deserves consistency, not confusion. Mr. Hale has demonstrated stability. Ms. Blackwell has not." Daria didn't cry. She didn't protest. She simply stood, accepted the ruling, and walked out of the courtroom without glancing back. As though motherhood had become a performance she was finally relieved to stop pretending to care about. Alex stood alone outside the courthouse, the final decree in his hand. Felt light for something so heavy. Inside it was every hour of pain, every word unsaid, every moment he doubted himself and chose to keep going anyway. He didn't go celebrate. He took Leo to the lake. They sat on the edge of the dock, feet dangling above the water, breeze light against their backs. Leo leaned against him and whispered, "Is it over now?" Alex paused, then said, "Yes, the worst of it is." Leo nodded. "Can we stop talking about it?" Alex smiled, small but real. "We don't have to talk about it ever again." But later that night, when Leo was asleep, Alex stood by the window and let himself feel it. The grief, the rage, the exhaustion. Not as enemies anymore, but as old companions finally leaving the room. He thought back to the moment it all broke. The video call, the sentence. "You know he still thinks I love him." And then he remembered what he wrote in that note on the kitchen island. "You lied like it was love." That was the truth. Daria had never been capable of love the way Alex had given it. Without conditions, without calculations. She loved like a transaction. He had loved like a vow. And still, he had survived her. Every betrayal, every manipulation, every hollow excuse. He had walked through it, not around it. Faced it, not fled from it. Now he had scars, but they were clean. Honest. Not the kind that disfigured. The kind that whispered. I healed. His son still asked questions sometimes. About Eric. About why people change. About whether forgiveness always comes with forgetting. Alex didn't have perfect answers. But he told Leo this. I thought I had a real family, your mom, you, and my best friend by our side. But eventually, I found out she had betrayed me with him. She confessed. It was long ago a mistake. But trust, once broken, doesn't return. Now I live alone. You visit on weekends. And every day I wonder, how do you forgive what shattered you inside? And then he added something he hadn't said before. You don't. You just stop needing it. Because sometimes, peace doesn't come from closure. It comes from walking away whole, quiet, and no longer waiting for the apology that was never real to begin with.